Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Omaganathimidandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshumilitam Yena Tasmai Shigrave Namaha. Chapter 12, text 59. So, as you can see, there's quite a few verses here. Sorry, I didn't hear that, because sitting here, it's like you really need to project because it's so hard to hear. Oh, because there's more on the other side? Oh, well, anyway, that's a nice transcendental meditation on these Sanskrit verses. So, what are we going to do about devotees chanting? Just one verse. Nandini Arakama Deva Caitanya Dasa Dulaba Vishvasha Aravana Mali Dasa. I'm going to go through because there's quite a few here, and basically it's the names of the lineage of Advaita Acharya. Okay, so Nandini, Kamadev, Caitanya Das, Dulaba Vishvash, and Vanamali Das were the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th branches of Sri Advaita Acharya. Text 60. Jagannath Kara, Bhavanath Kara, Hiradayananda Sain, and Bolanath Das were the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th branches of Advaita Acharya. Yadava Das, Vijaya Das, Janardhan Das, Ananta Das, Kanu Pandit, and Narayan Das were the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th branches of Advaita Acharya. Srivats Pandit, Haridas Brahmachari, Purushottam Brahmachari, and Krishna Das were the 25th, the 26th, 27th, and 28th branches of Advaita Acharya. Purushottam Pandit, Raghunath, Vanamali Kavichandra, and Vajranath were the 29th, 30th, 31st, and 32nd branches of Advaita Acharya. Text 64. Lokanath Pandit, Murari Pandit, Sri Hari Charana, and Madhava Pandit were the 33rd, 34th, 35th, and 36th branches of Advaita Acharya. Text 65. Vijaya Pandit and Sri Ram Pandit were two important branches of Advaita Acharya. There are innumerable branches, but I am unable to mention them all. It's a little purport here, 2-line purport. Since Srivas Pandit was an incarnation of Narada Muni, his younger brother Sri Ram Pandit is accepted as an incarnation of Parvata Muni, Narada Muni's most intimate friend. And text 66 has a purport. The Advaita Acharya branch received the water supplied by the original gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this way, the sub-branches were nourished and their fruits and flowers grew luxuriantly. Purport. The branches of Advaita Acharya, nourished by the water supplied by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, are to be considered bona fide acharyas. As we have discussed herein before, the representatives of Advaita Acharya later divided into two groups: the bona fide branches of the Acharya's disciplic succession and the pretentious branches of Advaita Acharya. Those who followed the principles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu flourished, whereas the others who are mentioned below in the 67th verse dried up. So this is what we'll speak about. But to finish off this section, there's 2-line translation, text 67. After the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some of the branches, for unfortunate reasons, deviated from the path. So we're going to talk about deviation. Okay. Am I going to... Now. So it's interesting that the word here is used, pretentious. And pretentious has a connotation of not being so wholesome. It's quite it's more like trickery. Pretentious, pretending to be something that you're not, is tricking other people. And then we have the bona fide lineage, the bona fide line. So many of the pretentious line, that actually gradually diminished in potency, in knowledge, in understanding, until, like a lot of things that are pretentious, they just whittle away and they go somewhere into oblivion. Whereas the bona fide line was flourishing very nicely. And this is what we need to think about. For so many years, Srila Prabhupada has spoken all over the world, constantly speaking about Krishna consciousness, Vedic wisdom and understanding. He's written so many books. He's given so many lecture tours, so many private conversations. He would take all comers, come, sit, ask your questions, talk. And he was never, ever in a place where he didn't have an answer. Because sometimes we see that with speakers, and you ask a question and they say, well, I'm not quite sure about that, or you just have to leave it to faith, or I don't know. But Prabhupada never, just think about that, never once was lost for words or lost for an answer, because he had all that deep, rich Vedic wisdom within him. And this is the lineage, and this is what we're following in the line of disciplic succession, this wisdom. And actually, this wisdom and the Vedas are all coming from Krishna. In so many different scriptures, they're coming. There's information about everything. There's information about building houses, construction. There's information about everything. We have this. Sometimes I feel quite overwhelmed when I think about the knowledge. If you lived 100 lifetimes, you couldn't get through even the books that we have. We're reading them, trying to digest them, trying to understand. But the thing that keeps us very, very safe is that we adhere to those instructions very, very closely, very carefully. We are on the lookout for deviation. We do not want to deviate, otherwise we might wither up. But we want to flourish and grow and become successful in our Krishna consciousness. So, I'd like now to take your attention to the Caitanya Caritamrita, another section, which is the Adi-lila in the 19th chapter. Now there, because I'm always on the lookout for things that can help me move. I'm looking all the time for things that can make me move forward. And the older you get, the more desperate you become. You're looking for all the help you can get, all the understanding you can get, the things that you can do to make your life as successful as possible. Now, I really like this Adi-lila 19th chapter, because there it actually explains how we, in the course of our lifetime, I'm talking about all of us here and all devotees, in the course of our lifetime, we attract superior knowledge, spiritual knowledge. We attract that. Because in the heart, there's something in the heart that is ready, wants to know. You may think about your own lives where you came through stages of a desperate longing to know what's going on. What is the truth? Why is this? Why is that? Has anyone had that experience? Yeah? Had that experience? And then, one day, you meet a devotee. And you're ready to take on this knowledge. And if one continues with their inquiries, comes along to temples, meets with devotees, hears the philosophy, sooner or later, that little bhakti lata beach, that seed of devotion, can be sowed within the heart. It's a seed. What do seeds do? We put them in the ground and they grow and they hopefully flourish. Excuse me. But they don't grow so well unless they're tended by a gardener, a competent gardener. And this is what happens with us. The seed in the heart, and by the mercy of the senior devotees, by the mercy of Guru Dev, that little seed will begin to sprout. The watering is likened to Shravanam Kirtanam. Hearing and chanting every day, hearing and chanting. Sprout starts to grow up like that. However, we're also warned that along with that little bija growing up, little creeper, also there are many weeds that grow up too. The weeds are growing. As well as that darling little creeper, the weeds are growing. And it's very tricky because those weeds look exactly the same as the little sprouted, wonderful little devotional creeper. They look the same. Because sometimes you may have had the experience, you go into the garden to pull the weeds. And then you end up sometimes, I did it. I'm guilty, I admit, in North Sydney. I think Prabhu might have been there too. When Atmarama Prabhu, temple president, took us all to the farm, Cessnock, and our business was to pull weeds. Do you remember that at all? You do? However, not being a gardener of any shape or form, and coming out of a concrete jungle to the wonderful land of Oz, that I didn't know anything about the plants. And I have to admit, I was pulling everything out, and I'm so sorry for those plants, but out came the good things as well as the weeds, because to me they look the same. Well, this is how it is in devotional life, how the weeds are growing and they look the same. And so sometimes they can overcome us. Now in Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he actually explains this process. I mean, it's so good to think about these things every now and again, to keep on track as much as possible, you know. That he said there are 4 anartas. Anartas means unwanted things. Just like the weeds, they're really anartas. Pull them out. Really, we don't need you. You're not helpful. And in the first section, he talks about Hiridaya Dobalya, which means weakness of the heart. We have some weakness of the heart. And they're listed as 4 things. The first one is attachment to objects that are not related to Krishna. And the second one is deceitfulness. We could translate that as cheating others in various ways, cheating ourselves. The next one is envy, of which the most honest person would have to admit that we do suffer from that disease, envy in some shape, degree or form. And the desire for fame, that is a big one to overcome. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And then we have apparates or offences. First of all, there's offences to the holy name, which we try not to commit when we chant our rounds especially. We try to keep focused. If the mind slips away, yato nischality manaschanchalamastiram, bring it back. If the mind wanders, bring it back. Straight away, bring it back. Being attentive, so that we're not offensive to the holy name by ignoring the holy name or letting the mind wander. I mean, when you're talking to somebody, and I've done it, and they're telling you something, and it's important to them, and it may be quite interesting, and you're like, and your mind's over, and then you think, bring it back, because it is offensive, it's rude, it is not nice. And then there's offences to the form of the Lord. Now, in the Nectar of Devotion, we have so many instructions, how to enter the temple, what to do, how to sit, everything like that, because we have to try to be careful to not be offensive to the Lord. Very important. And then there's offences to other devotees, knowingly or unknowingly. Sometimes people take offence when you didn't mean it, but usually we have some offences there between us, not treating each other as nicely as we could, when each and every one of us is so dear to Krishna. Why? We'll go into that a bit later, is because we are practicing the highest understanding of love of Godhead. And all the devotees who are embracing this path, embracing Krishna, they are so dear to the Lord. Indescribably dear, I would say. And then there's also offences to others. Well, who are the others? Surely they don't mean the karmis. We don't have to worry about them, do we? Do we? Offences to others. We've talked about devotees, talked about Krishna. Now you're talking about others? Mustn't be those meat-eating? But actually, everyone is a dear soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when we keep that in the forefront of our mind, then we cannot help but be polite and kind and loving to other people, irregardless. Now the next section that Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about is asatrishna, or material desires for material objects. So we have a hankering and a yearning for material objects. And then some people have a desire for heavenly objects. And some people might have a desire for mystic perfection. And others may desire liberation, which is very understandable. And then, but these things are actually not our goal. Then of course we want to be liberated, but if we cannot move beyond that, we want to be liberated. But as we grow, as we learn more, we have more knowledge and understanding, that comes into a very nice little place which we can talk about shortly. And Tattva Vibrana, we have illusion regarding spiritual knowledge. We're illusioned regarding one's own spiritual identity. That's number 2. and the Supreme Personality of Godhead were also illusion. We don't have the proper understanding, because basically we were walking around, I'm a spirit soul, I'm a spirit soul, but actually we haven't realized it. And it takes usually quite some time to realize these things. But instead of just neglecting these instructions which are given to us, we need to actually focus on them, to make a deliberate effort. Here's an interesting thing. Anartha is brought about by the process of bhakti itself. So if someone is performing bhakti for a long time and they become very, can we say, renounced, knowledgeable, all of these wonderful positives, they have a tendency to be looked up to be worshipped. Everyone wants to give them gifts or dakshin, and they have so much respect. Well, these can actually turn out to be anarthas brought about by the process of bhakti. Wealth, worship, respect, fame, comfort. And it is stated that these influences can overwhelm the heart of a devotee. So now we see that even the most so-called advanced devotees sometimes fall into difficulty. But you know, they were a Maharaj, they were a guru, and they fall into difficulty. What to speak of us, because we're considering ourselves much, much lower down in the scale of things. What to speak of us? How we need to understand and know this philosophy, to think about it, to be reminded about it, and to put it into practice. How we can protect ourselves and we can make positive advancement. Because that's what I'm here for. You could ask yourself that question. Why are you here? Why are you here in Krishna consciousness? Just ask that question for yourself for a moment. Why are you here? Maybe there's a few answers. We had, at one stage, in Brisbane, where I had a group of young ladies who were coming to devotional service, that I was the ashram mother, and we had a very bright spark enter the door, the temple gates one time. She was 17 years of age, so bright and sparkly. She was so enthusiastic for devotional life that she looked like she was jumping out of her skin. She was jumping out of her skin. And she came and joined the ashram. One night, I saw her, because it's so many years ago, I can't remember, but I remember her sitting up in bed, and she was on the top bunk, and she was sitting in bed going, when is it time for, when can we get up? Is it nearly time? Is it for Mangalarti? And she was like, ah! And she was just so enthusiastic. Couldn't wait to go to Mangalarti, couldn't wait to go to the program. Well, this is all very nice. We'd love to be like that. Most of us drag ourselves, not when you get old though, you just can't sleep. But most of us, you drag yourself out of your bed, let's go, come on, you can do it. And she went like that, and she was first at the door to go out on Sankirtan. I used to take them out on Sankirtan, and it was just so wonderful. And the gurus would come to visit, and they'd say, "Oh, who's this young Vaishnavi? She's just so amazing." Anyway, it's a good story because she came to Krishna consciousness. She performed service. But after about 6 months, we just didn't see her anymore. It's not a sad story. It's not a complaint. She got all of that mercy, all of that blessing. It will carry on, if not in this life, then in a future life. But it actually just made me think that we have a lot of enthusiasm But we have to work in such a way, because she related Krishna conscious life with festivals and fabulous prasadam and dancing around the mulberry bush and, out there on Harinam and the clothes and the jewelry that girls like to wear and all that sort of thing, Indianized. And so she loved all of that, and lovely. But there comes a time in devotional life, and some of you may experience, you may have already experienced, you may be experience it in the future, but there comes a time when you have to really knuckle down and understand this philosophy. It's not just airy-fairy, and know how to give it. It's like doctor's prescriptions, really. If you have prescription, maybe naturopaths' prescriptions. You follow those prescriptions. If you're feeling unwell or something's going wrong, you'll take those prescriptions and feel much better. So I feel like things like this with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to be mindful of this can help you. Come on, back up a little bit. That's not a good thing. That's not good what's happening here. And be wary. The thing is, we never see ourselves as other people see us. That's the problem. So often, my husband says to me, well, I won't tell you what he says to me, but it's not complimentary. And I'm like, what? You're like this and you're like that. Now the interesting thing is, there's some truth there, but we cannot see ourselves as other people see us. So the truth hurts. People tell us things that maybe we could work on. There can come a time in your life when you can be humble enough to say, thank you so much for saying that. I really want to work on that because I'm not seeing it within myself. But generally, that doesn't happen very often. So these anatas brought about by the process of bhakti itself, their influence has overcome very many great souls, so-called great souls, who are well up there on the path of devotional life. So you've got to know thine enemy, as they say, and be thinking about these things. I know it can be a little bit tiring and boring and, not as good as jumping around with flowers, and that's all part of it. But I like to try to take things seriously as well, and I try to encourage others to take things seriously and think how they can develop very nicely. Now, the thing with devotional life is that maybe for some time in the beginning it's very jolly and wonderful, and there comes a time when maybe it becomes a bit of a drag, a bit of a drudge, and then we have to pull ourselves up and try to move forward, because it is a work in progress. And we never need to forget that. It's a work in progress. Now, I made a few notes here that I wanted to share with you. Work to be done. It's very good to be done. So, an important point, I think. Of the there's many people actually that take to a devotional path or devotional life, but they come into different categories, and Prabhupada actually explains them. First of all, there's the karmis, the fruitive workers, who are trying to get as much enjoyment as they can from life, in a nice way, in a good way. And then you have the jnanis, whose goal is liberation. They want to be liberated. Now, we just read about that, didn't we? Liberation. It's an anatta. And then you have the yogis, whose goal is to have material opulences. But Krishna tells us that Bhakti Yoga, which is the process that we are following, is the highest of all. Because with the completion or the successful completion of Bhakti Yoga, we actually rise to the highest level. There is no higher level than Bhakti Yoga, because it is completely selfless. It's where we're aiming. It's selfless love for Krishna. That means if Krishna's happy, I'm happy. I only want to make Krishna happy. And the thing is that when we do make Krishna happy, we actually become happy. That's the trickery. We think we want to satisfy our bodies, we want to satisfy our minds. That's natural, even without thinking it. I want to see something nice, I want to do this, I want this sense enjoyment. It's natural, it just happens. But we have to really examine that. And we find that no matter what enjoyment and sense satisfaction we get, we're still not satisfied. I can tell you that. Try it. We're never satisfied. Not fully, not deeply, momentarily satisfied. But we're looking for that deep satisfaction that will go on and on and on eternally. And that is by fully satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that way, we may have our ups and downs in Krishna consciousness, because it's not a whole big party. Well, in a sense it is, but there are ups and downs with all devotees. And this is an interesting thing to talk about for a few minutes, is we may be trying to surrender very nicely, and we're having difficulties are coming and obstacles are coming. Things are going wrong. I don't understand why that happened to such a good person as me, or to him. He's a good person, but that most terrible thing befell him. That's awful. But when we think with the mind of knowledge, in devotion, we understand and we are taught by the Acharya that even though things appear to be very difficult, often they're to our best advantage. Okay, little story. American soldier, 24, American soldier. He's stationed in Germany. He's going home on leave. He's been stuck in Germany for 2 years. He's going home on leave. Oh, Mom, I'll see Mom and my girl. I just can't wait. And he's looking forward to it so much. So he travels from the southern part of Germany up to, begins with a K. Actually, we've been there, we did Sankirtan there. There's a very well-known city in Germany. So he travels there to take his flight. However, he's delayed. And he gets there, and he's very anxious. He's beside himself, because he's been dreaming about this for 2 years. He wants to go and see his girlfriend and his mom. Just due to circumstances, he misses the plane. So upset. However, that plane was ill-fated. It crashed. Everybody on board was killed. That's a really good example. That's a really big one. That had his desires been fulfilled, and he'd have got on that plane, well, he would be no more, at least not in that body, and wouldn't be meeting with his loved ones. And then after some time he could understand, after the grieving period, I was spared because I didn't get what I wanted so desperately, so dearly, but my life was spared. And that's how we have to start looking at things. Can't emphasize this enough. And we have so much support with other devotees. We have knowledgeable devotees and kind devotees and devotees who've experienced many, many things in life that we can take shelter of when we have such difficulties or we're beset by the problems of daily life. Because as great as it would be to understand that, oh yeah, you come to devotional life, all your troubles are over, they are really. in the true sense. But you come to devotional life, and then so many obstacles may come. But they're stepping stones to Krishna. Stepping stones to Krishna. So I think these are some of the points that we can think about, and that actually I find very enthusing. I'm very happy with all that. You guys don't look happy. I think I've delivered an address which is not... You know, I like to think about these things. I like to put them into operation. I like to be reminded. Anyone who wants to be my best friend, just remind me of all these things so I can stay on that path. And gradually, slowly, or maybe more quickly, we can sort of speed up with the purifying of the whole being and become pure souls, totally situated correctly, properly, how we should be. We're pure spirit souls. So I might actually stop there if anyone's got any comments, and I'll just find out with my notes, because I can't remember anything. I keep forgetting names, and sometimes I forget where I'm going. I do. It gets like that sometimes. Not sure where you're up to. So, is there anything else that I should have said? But anyone like to share anything or comment? Well, what did you think about the information? Is the information helpful?
Thank you, Adi. I think it was very good information.
Thank you for the information. I mean, it's so. I guess it's so much nicer to talk about flowers and incense and dancing. That's or the gopis. So I'm a worker. I just want to work through it and understand these very important things.
Yeah, we need to have a balance.
Can you hold it, Micah?
You need to have, like you say, a balance. So we have the fun times, but then we got to do the work as well. We have to
what?
Do the work.
We have to do the work. You see, as soon as you say work, everyone goes, oh. Give me the nectar. I want the nectar. Don't tell me about work. We have to do the work. But, the more we, we've got a lot of encouragement around us, and especially like-minded devotees or devotees, round about the same sort of, or senior devotees. We can, here, this will put you on a high note. This is the nectar of instruction. Okay, this will put you on a high note to finish the class. Text 3. Utsahan nishtayat dariyat tat kama pravatanat sangatyagat satobite sapi bhakti prasidjiti. There are 6 principles favourable to the execution of pure devotional service. 1, enthusiasm. 2, endeavouring with confidence. 3, being patient. 4, acting according to regulative principles. 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees. And 6, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Now, a little bit further on, it says some wonderful things. All by the grace of Guru and Krishna, we may receive the Bhakti Lata Bija, the creeper of devotional service. The material world is a place of confinement for the living entities who are by nature pleasure-seeking. That's it, we're pleasure-seeking. And we don't know where to find the pleasure, because the pleasure that we seek and pick up on is of a temporary nature and is not fully satisfying. So keeping that in mind, we plod on and we plod on and we work, we do the work. It's about work. You have problems, you talk to devotees, you work it through, you see new people, you chant more, you pray more, and it's a question that you can throw yourself into it like that. And you get through those little bumps and come out the other end all beautiful, squeaky, wonderful, feeling wonderful. Okay? Number 2. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there, and thank you very much for coming to the class, and I hope you can think about some of these points and try to gradually put them. It's a gradual process. Be happy to hear it's a gradual process. Okay. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.